In 1995, there were 29 traditionally animated movies in the United States. Go to the 2010s, and those numbers go way down. And it's mostly because of one thing: CG. CG rose tremendously ever since 1995. Back then, there were only 4 3D animated movies, and now it's averaging 26 movies a year. But in the past couple of years, we've seen the number of traditionally animated movies and shows start to rise, sometimes going toe-to-toe with CG. So why has it suddenly gained more traction? First, let's look at why CG took over in the first place. In all honesty, it doesn't look any better than traditionally animated movies, and if you ask most people, it looked worse, especially in the early days of CG. Just look at a traditionally animated movie from the 1950s and compare it to a 3D animated movie from the 2000s. The traditionally animated movie looks better even though they were 50 years apart. And if you compare how lively each film feels, the traditionally animated movie wins there too, though later CG movies did fix this. At the end of the day, the reason that CG surged in popularity was the cost of making a movie and the success of CG movies. CG movies have a higher upfront cost since the characters are just being created. But once that's done, all you need to do is animate the character, so it becomes far cheaper. For traditional animation, you have to redraw the character for almost every single frame of the movie. Just compare how many people worked on The Lion King versus Toy Story. Adding on to that, a lot of CG movies at the time were very successful in the box office. That laid in the groundwork to switch over when the numbers got low for traditional animation in the early 2000s. CG became the hot new thing and everybody wanted to get their hands on it. And by the mid-2000s, it became more accessible. But there was still the problem of people not liking the shift in the first place, thinking that it was easier to animate in 3D rather than 2D. For traditionally animated movies, a viewer knows that each single frame was hand-drawn by someone, whereas in CG, all they know is that someone moved a limb here and there, and it's seen as cheating. To clarify, it's not. It's hard to animate in 3D. Each art form has its own ups and downs. Some 3D characters have thousands of bones that all have to be moved just right so the animation looks good. And if it doesn't, I always blame time and money and not the artists themselves. But the consensus amongst the people back then was that it was easier to animate in 3D. But nonetheless, studios continued to use 3D animation. And 3D animation got a lot better, and began looking a lot better too. Plus, being able to reuse assets for a show or a movie can be wonderful since you don't need to remodel that asset ever again. You can just drag and drop it and then animate it. Though sooner or later, 2D animators began realizing this exact thing and started wondering how they can use this idea to help them out. At first, we saw puppeted 2D rigs that can move almost like a 3D character. This helped speed up animation since animators didn't need to redraw the character for every single frame of the movie. You can see these puppets in shows like Rick and Morty. Now at the same time, we also see shows and movies adding stylized 3D assets like cars and robots. Shows like Family Guy and The Simpsons start using 3D cars and ships instead of hand-drawn ones. Turning a car in 3D is a lot easier than turning a car in 2D. Slowly, we began seeing more and more shows and movies start to use 3D elements in their shots. This isn't very new. Animators were trying to do this all the way back in the 1990s, but it's become far more frequent to see it in 2D animated scenes. While all of this was happening, CG realized the same exact thing. Some things are hard to do in CG but are easily hand-drawn. So CG animated movies started adding 2D animation into their movies. And we start seeing this rise of mixed 2D and CG animated movies and shows. Ones that have so much more style than any one of them can achieve on their own. Movies like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Chip and Dale, and even the new SpongeBob movie all started doing this. Things that were once difficult to draw have become far simpler since you can essentially trace on top of the 3D model and not have to wonder if the car animation you created looks right. This was just the next step for traditional animation. Both 3D and traditional animation now use each other as tools rather than seeing each other as competition. And I'm here for it. I hope it continues to thrive. And for the people that don't like CG that much, I recommend looking at old hand-drawn cars. Personally, I like this mix. It's a new style that makes things easier for both parties. But honestly, as long as AI doesn't take animation over, I'll be happy. With that being said, thank you guys for watching, and bye.